Paralegal roles are becoming increasingly competitive to gain, and the pandemic certainly has not helped matters. This video is to shed some light on how I gained my paralegal roles, and hopefully it gives you some lessons that you can take away for your own job search. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name's Simranjeet Mann. I'm a future trainee solicitor for a UK top 20 law firm, and I provide advice on law, careers, personal development, as well as vlogging my journey to becoming a solicitor and beyond. Now, before I start, I just want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. A paralegal role is not the only way in which you can gain a training contract. So it's possible to gain a training contract without being a paralegal. The main thing is showing transferable skills from all types of experiences that you do, be it legal, non-legal, voluntary work, etc. Right, disclaimer out the way, now let's take a little trip down memory lane and talk about how I gained my 3 paralegal roles. My first paralegal job was actually part of this legal assistant program. Just a little bit of a pointer, I didn't have the LPC done at this stage. So as part of this legal assistant program, what they stated was if you worked with them and they liked you and they liked your work and you got positive reviews, then after around 6 to 9 months they would consider you for a training contract at the firm. So I started this job, as I stated, after I graduated. I started it in October 2020 after I quit my 2-week stint at a Big 4 accounting firm. The details of that video you can find via the link above. So I applied to this legal assistant program in the normal way. I filled out the application form. Then I had to do 2 interviews, one with recruitment, the recruitment team, and another one with 2 partners. And like I stated before, this vacancy was good because it didn't require you to do the LPC. I feel like a lot of vacancies nowadays, they say it's preferable if someone has done the LPC or the GDL, but it's important to note that paralegal roles are entry-level jobs. I guess one bad thing about this vacancy was I had to move to a completely new city to do the job, so I had to move to Birmingham. I guess one lesson I'd like to say from this was I successfully gained the role and had to move to a new city, and I guess that risk was entirely worth it for me. I don't regret that in any way. It was probably one of the best decisions I'd ever made. So if you are given an opportunity, be it legal, non-legal, at first it may not be something that you want, but in my opinion it's always best to at least try, have a bit of an open mind. Of course I understand though, moving to Birmingham is no easy feat, and I had the support of my family, and obviously that was really helpful with things like house viewings and the financial support just to help me start off. And of course I understand that that's a privilege that not everyone has as well. So obviously when you are taking risks, make sure that you're able to take realistic risks, if that makes sense. Another lesson I'd say is don't sell yourself short. So for example, for this role as the legal assistant program, I was in the insolvency team, and the only experience that I had with insolvency at that point, like going forward, was at university. I'd only done an insolvency module, so I didn't have any kind of work experience. I was fresh out of university, and I know a lot of paralegal roles say, oh, we would ideally like it if you were experienced in this or that. In my opinion, try not to let that hinder you from applying. Again, you never know unless you try. But of course I understand the flip side. Sometimes when you do get rejected from a firm, they say it's because you've not got enough experience in that particular area, but at least you know where you stand then. And you can also try and show you have experience in a particular area, not entirely via work experience, but via other things. Like say if you've listened to a podcast that talks about M&A, for example, or you've done a module at university that relates to M&A, or you're about to study it but you haven't yet for the LPC. Try and think of ways in which you can tailor your CV and your cover letter to show that you have some interest at least in the practice area that they're talking about, even if it may not be formal work experience. So I guess that's 2 lessons straight away that I'll take away from my first paralegal experience and gaining that role. Now, I had to leave this first firm that I was paralegaling at for 2 reasons. Firstly, I think the most important thing for me was to move back home. I really missed home. Birmingham was quite a long way away from home, so to move back and yeah, just be around my family and my friends was really important to me. And secondly, because I'd secured vacation schemes at 2 law firms, it would have been a bit of a sticky situation from a conflict of interest perspective. And while we're on that topic, actually, I'll give you guys a little bit of an insight. Say if you are a paralegal right now, or you're looking to become a paralegal in the future, definitely do look at your employment contracts, particularly the element that states whether you are allowed to work for other firms. And if you're unsure, clarify that with HR. So for example, if you tell them, what if I have a vacation scheme? Does that mean I'd have to quit my job to do this vacation scheme? Because in some respects, people have had to do that, and I had to do that in my situation as well. And of course, not every employment contract may have that clause where it says, oh, you can't do vacation schemes or internships or experiences at other firms, but of course it's something something to look out for. So yeah, I've given you a little bit of an insider. Right, my next paralegal role was one that I started in 2019 in the summer after my vacation schemes, and it was with a real estate firm. Again, I didn't really have much kind of formal experience with real estate, apart from the fact that when I was an insolvency paralegal, there were elements of real estate that I came across. For example, drafting completion statements and getting some insight into the whole process of selling a property. So of course I didn't have that experience but in my CV I definitely mentioned that I had that real estate interest through the fact that I encountered parts of it as an insolvency paralegal. So I guess that's another lesson to take away here. If you have experiences that are transferable somewhat to the role, mention it. If you've come across an element of that practice area, be it in your studies, in your work experience, it doesn't mean that you should be sending the same CV off to everyone. Tailor your CV. In your cover letter, for example, one thing that I used to mention quite a lot was I may not have specific experience in this practice area, however I have displayed an interest in it via this, I have studied this about it or whatever. And I guess that shows the employer that you may not have formal work experience in a particular practice area, but at least you're able to show that you have an interest or some engagement or some knowledge of what's going on. Now with this real estate paralegal role, a family friend helped me to secure that. She was the one who notified me of the role, and she was the one who forwarded my CV and cover letter to the firm that she was working for.
How convenient is that? Wow.
And of course, I guess here, even though I was forwarded my CV and cover letter through a family friend, that didn't mean that I didn't tailor my CV or cover letter. I still made sure I did that aspect. And then I was invited to an interview. I still made sure I prepared for that interview, knew a bit of knowledge about the firm, about the job description, etc. So I was on my best form during the day. But of course, I understand that I'm very lucky to have had a family friend in the legal sphere working for that firm, and just so happened that they were looking for a paralegal as well. I guess a lesson that you can take away here, of course, not everyone has connections in the legal field, but that doesn't mean that you can't create your own. Going out of your way to create legal connections is very, very important, and it's something that I feel like you should start doing while you're at university. I didn't, and I felt like I should have while I was at university, because when I graduated, I pretty much knew no one in the legal sphere. My family friend was introduced to me quite late after I'd even secured my vacation scheme, so I was like, oh wow, like I wish I knew you sooner. But it's really, really important to note that most jobs aren't advertised, they are through connections. And if you are someone who's like, well, I don't have any family connections, or I don't have any friends connections, I think it's really important to start creating your own, make your own luck in the same way in which, you know, this situation was lucky for me. So regardless of whether you have connections in law or not, even if someone has so many connections in law, I think you should still be putting in the effort to create opportunities for yourself and reach out to individuals on sites like LinkedIn. And I guess LinkedIn is the most obvious route, like dropping a message to a partner. Of course, you don't want to drop them a message straight away and be like, are you looking for any paralegals? That's not really the right way to do it. In my opinion, it's all about building a rapport with that person first. So say if you find someone, for example, on LinkedIn that's a partner in a law firm that went to the same secondary school as you, or supports the same football team, or did the same year abroad in the same country, that's common ground that you can use to your advantage when messaging that person. I've had quite a few people do that to me, like say, oh, we went to the same secondary school, that's so cool. And if anything, it made me more interested in helping them out, because it was like, well, this is someone who actually kind of has a similar background to me. It's also, you know, if you feel like it's easier to reach out to people who are of the same ethnic minority as you or underrepresented community, do reach out as well, because then they're able to have that element of relation. And in my opinion, they're more likely to help you out because they can relate to the certain obstacles that people of their community usually face. Let me give you one example of how I reached out to someone on LinkedIn. So I saw that they'd won a particular award on LinkedIn. They were South Asian, they were a woman, and I just saw their award and I thought that's really inspiring. I dropped them a personal message just saying, hi there, my name's Simranjeet, I'm a future trainee solicitor. I just wanted to drop you a quick message to say congratulations on the award. I've seen all your achievements like this and this to get to where you're at now with the award, and I find it really refreshing and inspiring to see a South Asian woman doing this. She got back to me and said, wow, that's such a lovely message. And consequently, our conversation developed a little bit more. She works for a law firm as well, and she basically offered to give me a Zoom call. We had a Zoom conversation, and in that Zoom meeting, she gave me advice to take away for when I start my training contract. So can you see that this is an opportunity that I just created for myself just out of saying congratulations to someone, and from that I've built a relationship with someone professionally in that I can see them now as a kind of informal mentor. So yeah, I think that's why it's really important, regardless of whether you've got connections in the legal industry or not, it's really important important to still always be creating opportunities for yourself, and one way in which you can do that is by forming connections and reaching out to people. I'll talk a little bit more about how LinkedIn helped me out later on in this video, so do stay tuned for that. Right, so my third paralegal role was actually, I think, the result of me being quite proactive. I found out in June 2020 that my training contract that was due to start in September 2020 was deferred due to the pandemic. And it was deferred to March 2021, which is in a couple of weeks' time now. And of course, I found myself with a load of months left to spare where I could be working, I could be doing paralegal work. So after my LPC exams finished in June 2020, I made speculative applications to loads of law firms and also went out of my way to email recruiters as well with my CV and my cover letter, letting them know about myself, who I am, my availability and what I'm looking for. And at least in the back of their heads, they were able to keep my name in case any vacancy ever did come up. Now a month passed and I thought, you know what, I don't think I'm gonna hear anything back, until this recruiter got back to me and said, look, we've got a 1-month role for you. And that was a really positive thing. So I worked as a paralegal for that, as a data protection paralegal for 1 month. Again, I have no clue about data protection, never worked in it before. However, what I was able to say in my interview actually for the data protection paralegal role was that I had an interest in how data was stored, just from like what I've seen on vacation schemes, how much importance firms place on things like GDPR is something that I have noticed, albeit I didn't have direct work experience in. And that was good enough for them to think, you know what, that's actually fine. And that's how they took me on. So similar to my points about LinkedIn, it's about being proactive. You never know where opportunities may arise. For job searches, admittedly, there is an element of luck involved, but why not create your own luck and create more opportunities for yourself by being proactive and making it easier for that luck to just come through. Now, this proactivity links to another LinkedIn related point that I wanted to talk about. So I did a little bit of an experiment on LinkedIn in around October 2020, just to see what opportunities can come through just by posting. So I posted on LinkedIn as a public post and, you know, basically said, look, this is who I am. I'm starting my training contract soon, but I'm looking for paralegal work between, like, you know, for a couple of months. Please do let me know if anything comes by. And the number of people who messaged, commented, liked the post, shared it, it was honestly just insane. And I'm really, really grateful for that. If anything, it put me in contact with people who I would have never been in contact with before, enabled me to build on my connections and my network. A big positive that came out of it actually was one really kind individual commented and said, oh, you should join this agency called Flex Legal. And Flex is a really, really great paralegal agency type organization which offers short-term paralegal roles of like between 2 hours to around 12-month placements. And I've tried to get an interview with Flex before for ages and I just couldn't get through because all their calendar was all booked up. And then this woman from Flex basically replied back and said, you know what, we can actually squeeze you in for an interview on Monday. And since then I've been onboarded with Flex. They've been looking for paralegal roles for me. And I just think it's really positive that the comment of one person led to that. So yeah, it was a really, really positive and it was an experiment that I'm really, really glad that I did. So I guess the final lesson from this whole video is if you don't put yourself out there, you won't be able to see the extent to what you can achieve. Don't be afraid of what people may think of you. Someone could have looked at my post and be like, huh, what a beg, she ain't got a job. But like, honestly, I don't really care. I'm gonna put myself out there. I'm gonna try my best to be proactive and do what's right for me. Anyway, that was a really sassy ending. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope it provides a bit of an insight and helps you out with your job search as well. I know it's difficult in these times. Please keep persevering. You will get there. And yeah, good luck. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.